Hey guys, Doug here. Before we get to this week's episode of AnimeCons TV, a little bit of an update there. Some of the things that Patrick and I are talking about have already changed since we recorded our conversation. With the news of Otakon still moving forward with their original dates and starting to plan things, some of our points are a little dated, but I still think it's a pretty good episode, and a lot of the discussion we have is worth having despite that. We're going to wait and see kind of what happens with Otakon, but I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the episode. And once again, don't forget to comment on everything with all the forums that we use. And without that, anything else, let's get to the episode, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Welcome, everyone, back to AnimeCons TV. It's been a while since we've been able to record an episode, but we actually have some good convention news to talk about and how things are kind of changing in the convention world. And who better to talk to me about it than our own podcast and website founder, Pat Delhanty. So welcome back, Pat, to your own show.
It's great to be able to do another episode. In the last year and a half, the only episodes I've done are the year in review episodes. Because there haven't been any cons to talk about.
Yeah.
So, I think we're finally starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel here. And it's a good feeling.
It's really starting to feel fantastic that things are slowly starting back to return back to the way they used to be, and a little normal and everything like that, as, you know, policy like mask mandates and things like that are being released, and limits on the gathering sizes and what people can do indoors and stuff. It's nice to see that change. I mean, some of us, I think, are a little worried, like, is this going to be too soon? But it seems like everything's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and, you know, just the feeling of, I have had my second shot. It was 2 weeks ago today, and I went and got a haircut for the first time in 8 months. And you know, I got a haircut last October because it was 9 months. I couldn't take it anymore. And going then, it was like, okay, I got to be really careful. I know this person is seeing however many people a day. And, you know, if she got infected, I don't want to. But going there with both shots and 2 weeks after the second one, it's like, exhale. Oh, I felt comfortable just getting a haircut. And it's starting to feel like things are going to get back to normal. I still don't know how the people, but
yeah, there's been a lot of.
I don't have long hair anymore. It's great. It's like way down past my shoulder. Wow.
It's the remembering how to people is something I've heard a lot of people talk about, like, as things readjust, and just like, oh yeah, socializing. I mean,
yeah. I mean, I still don't feel completely free because we have a toddler in the house who's not old enough for any vaccine. So, you know, we can't go anywhere with him. At least based on what the CDC says, we can't bring it home to him. So that's good. But it means we can't go to restaurants still with him. We can't just, you know, go hang out at the mall. He won't be going to any conventions, but...
yeah, it's going to take a while for that, so, well... Yeah. And I mean, there were some conventions during the pandemic, and it's a bit of a mixed bag. Like, some of them, they just seemed hell-bent on having it, you know, like, oh, well, we're going to have mask rules and this, that, and the other, and we kind of felt like, oh, these people are crazy.
Yeah, oh, we're doing temperature checks, we're okay. It's like, no, that's not really... Some people don't even get a fever, so...
Yeah.
And then you'd see people take their masks off to have pictures with the guests. Like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Yeah. And there were also some conventions that either they were in the state that never actually had, like, those limits or something like that. And if they didn't hold the convention, they'd lose even more money or, you know, go completely bankrupt. And those are the conventions you kind of feel bad for because they were stuck in that situation. If they could have canceled with their contract, they would have, but the way the contract was written and kind of the way the states, or, you know, even sometimes just on the city level, set up their rules, they couldn't get out of it, and those are the ones you really felt bad for.
Yeah, it all depends on the state, city, and the venue. Because if the state says, "Oh, no large gatherings," you're fine. But then sometimes the state said it was okay, but the city says no large gatherings, then you're fine. And then other times it was down to the venue, where the venue's like, "All right, but we're not doing events, so you can get out of the contract if you're not comfortable." But then sometimes all three said, "All right, no, we're back to normal. You got to have your thing," and they scheduled it probably years ago because a lot of conventions, people might not be aware, a lot of conventions are scheduled more than a year in advance. You'll talk to the venue, you'll book your dates, maybe 5 years at a time, and especially the larger conventions where you need you can't just go, "Oh, we're going to go to the hotel next door." No, you need this convention center or you're not happening.
Yep.
And so they have to book it years in advance to get dates even close to what they want. And so they don't know there's going to be a pandemic in 5 years. And so, yeah, it's not like they can just drop it from another venue. But, yeah, if the venue says, "Oh, you're going to hold this," then, they're going to, they can always cancel and pay a huge penalty. And if they've got a large enough bank account, maybe they can do that. But most conventions are on a shoestring budget, so that's not happening.
Yeah.
And so some of them we're doing reduced attendance. We can only have 25%, and that's just killer to everybody because the dealers aren't getting the attendance, the artists aren't getting the attendance, so they're not making money. Your convention's not making. Everybody's just losing. It would have been better to let you cancel, but they're forcing you to hold it. So. But then I did see plenty that's like, "Oh no, we didn't cancel for snowstorms or rainstorms and floods. We're not canceling for this." It's like, "Oh, you guys are terrible."
Yeah.
I don't like. And so, for the conventions that wanted to cancel but couldn't, I feel for them, especially the ones. If you're going to organize a convention, form the corporation under. Well, form a corporation. Don't put it under your name. So if the con loses money, you're not personally bankrupt from it.
Yeah.
That way you can say, "Oh no, all right, con's bankrupt," and then in 3 years come back. "Oh, it's new con 2.0." But yeah, cons during the pandemic was a bad idea.
Yeah, and those stubborn ones were really kind of so annoying to look at because it's just you should know better. Don't be a jerk, and you're just making it worse for everybody involved, including yourself.
Yeah, and I also noticed the guests going to these conventions. A lot of them tended to be the anti-maskers. They were the ones that, I haven't been in Lewis and Clark for decades, so I'm going to go make a convention appearance and get some money. Not to name names, but
yeah, or just people that like they have to take what they can get for conventions because maybe they've been shamed into something because it turned out they were a horrible person and that people finally
need more voice acting jobs.
Yeah. So, I think though as we shift to cons that have been doing things right. One of the fears I've really started to have is I really feel concerned about there's going to be a couple conventions that, the rules have been lifted and they say, well, things are back to normal. You have to have your convention and you're stuck with your contract. And they've, normally they plan the convention for a year out. Like because especially larger conventions, it takes a lot of time to plan everything and put on a big show, and now they may only get a few months, maybe even a few weeks, and they have to scramble to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And those are the cons I'm really concerned about.
Yeah, and although at this point I think a lot of conventions have been kind of planning in behind the scenes, like, okay, if we happen, then we'll do this. But I've seen a lot holding off. Like they haven't booked guests because you don't want to be caught booking guests and then you have to cancel and deal with all of that. So it's easier to just wait. And maybe this year they don't have guests. That's fine. Keep the convention small to start. I think anybody who anticipates that it's oh, everybody's vaccinated, we're going back to normal. This is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Conventions that do happen this year in person are going to be so much smaller than normal. This is a terrible time to launch a new convention. Don't start a new convention. Double this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just gonna come back and because a lot of people just they're gonna be cautious. Like um, in, this summer, I actually am planning because I'm fully vaccinated. I'm gonna go to Port Con, Maine. They're having a smaller hybrid event, so part of it will be online, and then they're gonna have it in person too. I think it's the same. You can just do the same panels online or in person. So I'm going to go check it out for at least a day. And it's a smaller convention, and I know this year it's going to be even smaller. But, I feel comfortable going to a small con like that. I would not feel comfortable going to like Anime Expo or San Diego Comic Con. Comic Con in 2019 was just way too overcrowded. And even if it's half that, I would not want to be anywhere near that. Even though I'm fully vaccinated, I don't want to take the chance.
Right. And there's, just one of the things you mentioned with guests, like I was thinking about this, is, where we stand right now. Japan is still struggling to get things under control, so trying to even get a Japanese guest is pretty much out of the question at this time.
Or even a Canadian guest. You're not getting any international guests. Everybody is domestic.
Yeah.
If you're in Canada, you're only getting Canadian guests. If you're in the U.S., it's only U.S. guests.
Yeah, and look for somebody that is in your proverbial backyard or could drive up instead of, and you just pay for their gas and their tolls.
Yeah.
Instead of putting them on a plane or something that.
This is a good year to focus on local guests. Unless you're doing an online event, then I say go shoot for the moon and get guests you normally could never get. I've seen a lot of Australian conventions that are having virtual guests, and they're getting some really big names that they would never get to fly down to Australia, and it would be so expensive. But somebody comes online for a panel for an hour, they're having some great guests at these virtual conventions.
Yeah, because even if it's a time change, all of a sudden okay, maybe I have to get up for 2 hours in the middle of the night, then I'll look pretty on the webcam and then go back to bed.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta get up at 9 a.m. for this panel, or I'm staying up till 11. Whatever. They can make it work.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, if you're doing virtual, shoot for the moon. If you're in person, emphasize local guests. That's a good plan.
Yeah. And I think with local guests, and maybe I'm a little biased as someone who is a panelist, and my staff position on Anime Boston is the featured panelist coordinator. But I think this is like, you talk about local guests. If you know local people that give like really good panels or something, this is where like a featured panelist track would be a really good opportunity, and this could be a really good opportunity to kind of build that programming for your con in the future too.
Yeah.
Because you might have someone in your backyard.
And you're going to have limited attendance. Record that panel, post it on a YouTube account for the con, and let people see what type of programming you have. And if they like this panel by this person this year, they might come back to see something else by that person the next year, or some other interesting panels that you may have. It's a good opportunity for promotion.
Yeah. You mentioned, some cons are going to be smaller, either they're limiting attendance or something, but I'm really curious what's going to happen with just the general attendees when there aren't these limited. It was like, how much are you going to see pent-up demand, like people really eager to get back, and how much you're going to see hesitancy on some people that are like, you know what, I'm not going to go to a giant event just yet. And I keep trying to think, where do I fall? And half the time I'm like, there are certain cons that, like, if I found out tomorrow it was happening, I'd start making plans. But at the same time, those are some of those cons that I do every year are larger ones, and it's just not sure if I'm ready yet.
Yeah, like if you Doug, you've won a trip to Dragon Con. It's like, you'll be like, can I put it off till next year?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, and I think, there's a certain amount of pent up. But I think those people that it's like, oh, I can't wait to get out and get to a con, that are going to go to the first one they can get to, they're probably the ones that have already gone to cons. It's like, oh, but I'll wear a mask and I'll be safe. And uh, so I think what we're going to see is more hesitancy. We're going to see, let me just, take a step back, see how it goes. I'll let some cons happen. Maybe I'll only go for a day. Like, I'm only going for a day to PortCon. And I'm going to check it out. I'm not going to be there all 4 days of the con. And so, we'll see how it goes, see how I feel. But yeah, I actually recommend anybody who wants to go back to cons, try small ones first. I've always encouraged small conventions. Try out your local small cons. And just, dip your foot in the water. Small cons are some of the best experiences I've had. And I think they're a good way to get back into cons after all of this. You don't want to jump in to some super crowded event, come home with con plague, and be wondering like, oh no, did I catch it?
Yeah.
And oh, it's just a cold, but still, I don't want to catch anything right now.
And I think some of that there's going to be some of those people that have that pent up demand though that are be like, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to wear my mask. I'm going to get my vaccine when it's my turn and it's available, and they're going to be trying to do everything like that.
Yeah.
But there's also like figuring out limiting numbers and stuff like that, or how to have their event and still be safe. I think we're going to see some cons stumble a little, and I think it's going to be important for attendees to remember to kind of be patient as we're all figuring this out. From attendees, from convention organizers to venues, everyone's trying to figure it out. What's going to be the best approach?
Yeah,
and there's going to be some missteps there.
Yeah, it took a while for everybody to figure out the online convention thing. When everybody first started shutting down, there weren't online conventions coming because nobody had time to plan that. It's just, oh, we got to cancel. And can we do an online thing? There were a couple Twitch streams and some other minor things. People put in lists of dealers that would have been at the convention or artists and call it their online convention. But as the year went on, we got more and more involved with, oh, now this convention has Zoom panels, and you can go and join those, and it got more like the in-person convention. It got better planned, much better, and so I think as we saw with the online conventions, we're going to see that happening with the in-person ones, where it's coming back and people are going to adapt. Some conventions that are coming back are requiring you to have a vaccine, to be fully vaccinated, or to have a negative COVID test within 3 days or so. And that's certainly a good strategy to try to keep infections at the minimum, because you don't want to be in the newspaper as that next super spreader event. That's I mean, they say there's no such thing as bad press. Oh, that would be bad press.
That's because then you would immediately become that con. Oh,
yeah.
Like everyone still
that's
refers to that
super
Biogen conference that happened in Boston, and that's professionals. If it was an anime convention that did it, you'd never hear the end of it. You would forever be known as PlayCon.
Yeah. Certain cons have certain years that have been branded as Line Con. It's more than one con that's gotten that, or other nicknames over the years, and you don't want to be one of those. It's kind of like Twitter, where every day there's a person that's the featured person. You never want to be that person. Like for conventions, you don't want to be that convention.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to be the one that has a vaccination site have to reschedule their dates because you had already planned a convention on those dates. okay, they probably booked the convention site first. They shouldn't have had one in the first place. They should have canceled, and then vaccination could have been on the regular days.
And there were so many people, like even convention fans I know, that weren't like, oh hey, cool, convention's coming back. It was one of those. This is how we get a bad name as
Mm-hmm.
a fandom. Like this is what ruins it for the rest of us.
Yeah.
So, but as we said, like one of the points we can't emphasize enough is if you're eligible, and it's available, please get the vaccine. The best vaccine is the first one you can get.
Oh my god.
Yeah, because doing so will mean that conventions can come back for real and it'll be safe. So if you haven't already, if you're hesitant, please do it, because that means we can all do the things we love again.
And I don't know about you, I didn't get any severe side effects. The first one felt like somebody punched me in the arm. Second one felt like somebody punched me in the arm really hard. But that was it. I think I might have gotten a slight headache and been tired, but that was also because I didn't get a lot of sleep.
Yeah.
I was busy doing some other stuff and lifting boxes.
My first dose, I had a sore arm. The second dose, I had a sore arm, and I woke up with feeling a little dehydrated and a little bit of a headache. But I'm also not sure that was the shot. That could have just been seasonal allergies.
Well, I actually, when I got the second shot, she was saying, okay, make sure you drink plenty of water. I think dehydration is pretty common, but that's so minor. My wife did have a little more severe reaction. She just felt under the weather for a day. But, I mean, now, fully vaccinated, it's totally worth it. And
so, get your vaccine and then get your ice-cold water.
Yes. Team Pfizer.
I'm House Moderna myself, so hey, again, they're all safe.
Yeah,
get whichever one you can.
Yeah.
But I do want to change gears a little bit, just because we haven't been able to do too many episodes of AnimeCons TV, but we've been a little busy for most of our crew.
Yeah, we've all had a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a good thing there's no conventions happening too, because I don't know how we'd fit that in.
But just about all of us except Sketch, and I know he's been targeted now, have been on a friend's podcast. Our friend Katie Hunt has started Convention Confessional, which is just stories of people sharing stories from convention stuff. We've all been on there, I said, except Sketch, and we know we're going to drag him on there at some point.
He'll be on there at some point, yeah.
And
I mean, it's good stories and bad stories.
Right.
So it's not your typical, it's the panel at late night at conventions where they tell their con horror stories. No, this isn't all horror stories. Some of these are pretty good stories. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stories about cosplay, there's stories about convention planning, there's stories about staffing conventions or just traveling to conventions, and she's told me some of the guests she's got coming up, and she's got some good episodes.
She's been putting a lot of work into it, and just about every episode gets at least one or two points where I'm just rolling with laughter and think, I'm driving to or from work on my commute. And I have to, wait a minute, focus on the wheel because I'm laughing so hard. And there's I know she's putting a lot of work. So once again, that podcast is Convention Confessional. I really want to give it a lot of credit and spotlight it.
Yeah. It's on every podcast player you've got. It's audio, so it's good to listen to while you drive.
Yeah. So I think that's about it, but to everyone that's joined us, we're glad you're still with us. We hope we'll be getting more content soon. But in the meantime, don't forget to tell us what you're being up to, what you're looking forward to as cons slowly get back, what you've been doing to kind of keep up with the con experience and things like that. There's a lot of different ways to reach out to us. You want to list some of them? Because I know there's a bunch.
It's been so long. You can email us at podcast@animecons.tv, or you can leave us a voicemail I don't know the last time we got a voicemail, just because we haven't done many episodes. But it's 762 adequate. That's 762-233-7828. And I remember that number because I give it out occasionally to people that I think might spam me. But yeah, drop us a line, or you can follow us on Twitter at AnimeCons TV, and let us know when you plan to go back to conventions. Which one are you going to hit up? And in a couple weeks, few weeks, I don't know, a month, we'll see. I'm going to have a report on PortCon Maine. It's going to be our first con report in almost 2 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Almost 2 years, or is it over 2 years? When was the last time we did a con report? Oh, I'm looking.
It might be my Otakon one.
Oh, no, Anime NYC 2019.
Ha! I got the last one.
It was in November 2019. Yeah, you've had a streak.
That was the last convention I did.
Your streak of episodes. Oh my god, Doug.
You keep letting me talk.
Yeah, it's been... Alright, I did an episode in November 2019, and after that, I think they're all you.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
So, once again, get your shot so we can have other people go to conventions and con reports and just get me off here for a little while.
Yeah, don't throw away your shot.
So.
And after you get the first one, make sure you get the sequel injection.
Mm-hmm.
And go see Michelle Pfizer, or be a Moderna Major General.
Or the Johnson brothers.
Yeah. So, I've been waiting on all this stuff. I haven't had an outlet for all.
Soon we'll be able to we'll be able to record podcast episodes together in person.
We could have done that this one, but we didn't think of it. We're so used to just being stuck.
Very soon. All right. Well then, once again, thanks everyone. We will see you soon. Stay in touch. Stay safe. And that's it from us. Later.